on, ladies and gentlemen? It's another great episode of The Stoop where we talk hoops, and more hoops. I'm your guy, TJ, and I got to always take time to thank everybody for tuning in for each and every episode. And at this time, let me introduce you, my co-partner extraordinaire, my man with the plan, the guy who got it going on, Mr. Kev P. Talk to the people, bro.
Man, you already know. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Listen, Kev, if you talk about a guy whose family got it from the mud, we talking about if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. He's not only watched how his grandfather's success, his father's success, and now his success has sustained a family brand. We're talking about something that's really, really incredible. And he's now going on to create not only a tradition, but a legacy of his home. He's coming from a great family background and just great business, period. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the extraordinary pleasure of having on the Stoop today, Mr. Tahir, Mr. Legacy, Murray. Tahir, what's going on, bro? Thank you so much for coming to the Stoop. Appreciate you coming, bro.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. So, Kev P, let's get started, man.
Man, I'm going to get right to it, bro. Tradition ever since was started by your legendary dad in 2012. We're going to get back to his status later, but in 2019, Legacy, History, Pride debuted. Both lines are wildly successful and have their roots in HBCUs. But LHP is considered the luxury line. I guess some could consider it like the Gap and Banana Republic kind of thing. For those that don't understand, would you mind explaining the difference between the two?
No, of course. My dad, like you said before, my dad started tradition ever since, and he works with the business no longer. But you know, growing up and being around him and being in the apparel industry, I just grew a love for what he was doing in the collegiate space through fashion, but more specifically through HBCUs, because he was making product for a bunch of different schools, but always had a focus on, you know, the culture and HBCUs. So when I got at Howard, that's when I kind of became more involved with the brand. Like I said, the brand is no longer, but when I started Legacy History Pride my junior year. And I wanted to, you know, continue my family's legacy in the apparel industry, but having kind of like what my dad was doing, but having an only focus on HBCU apparel, designing culture, you know, designing gear for the culture, by the culture. HBCUs are constantly swept underneath the rug. And when I first started the brand, I was calling it a luxury line. When you think of like luxury, I mean, you could define it however you want to define it. It's not just about how much money it costs or anything like that. I think luxury is really about a mindset. It's a standard of living. And if I want to say I'm luxurious, I think my culture, Black culture, is luxurious. You know, we set the standard in everything that we do: education, entertainment, fashion, sports, you name it. Like we really set the standard and continuing the push of what the culture is. And that is what, you know, what Black people make it to be.
No doubt.
Most definitely.
Yes, sir.
Now, here's something I want to bring up. If tradition is the father to LHP, then School of Hard Knocks is the grandfather. So SOHK, that's what I'm going to call it for short, took the fashion world by storm and then suffered the ever-present cultural appropriation in the mid-2000s at the hands of Target. How difficult was it to rebound from that and reinvent? And what's the silver lining behind it?
You know, it's kind of, as a creative, as an artist, you constantly have to reinvent yourself. So I think, like, you know, there was multiple different things that went on with, you know, School of Hard Knocks, and it's still around today. I brought it back 25th anniversary through LHP.
Nice.
So it's still here.
Wanted
to, you know, celebrate and tell that story of my grandfather and my dad. But the legacy has to continue. The legacy got to go on. And it's an honor, it's a blessing for me to continue, you know, sharing that story and that message with the world through the lens of fashion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, Tahir, let me ask you a question, man, and see what you recognize here, because with that New York City vibe, you know, places and all types of stores had different brands growing up. And I know I was growing up as probably as well as you, but we're a little older, I guess. But from Mecca to Aniche to RP55 to Academics, Fat Farm, Baby Fat, and the list goes on, man. Unfortunately, those iconic brands just seem to don't have staying power in terms of the urban fashion line for the contemporaries. Why do you think that is? And what have you learned from a lot of their miscues to make sure that you got buying power and moving forward and coming up?
Yeah, definitely. I think fashion in itself has changed so much the past, you know, 20 years, 30 years when those brands first started out. I think the difference for me is, like, especially, studying my family's history and studying the history of other artists and other brands and such. The thing with Legacy History Pride is that we have a very niche graphic and demographic and audience. We're catering to, everybody from the new freshmen to, the seasoned alumni. But we're constantly, you're always going to get a new freshman every year. You're always going to get a new alumni every year. So for us, it's a blessing to be in the collegiate space because we're constantly having to, not reinvent, but also just market our product in a way that caters to everybody along those lines. And I tell people all the time, like there's no set blueprint in this industry or with any industry. Everybody has, their own, I guess, unique characteristics about them, their own stories. So with LHP, I'm just trying to do something that's never really been done before in the collegiate space, which is, always growing, is always a boom. So I think that's the biggest difference between me and other brands that have been around or still may be around today. But it has a lot to do with just that target audience. Like I feel like HBCU fashion is big now and is going to get bigger, just like how it was big back in the day when you see it on these TV shows and you see it in videos and stuff like that. So yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, because of controversies, bro, you can think about the legacy in which shows like the Cosby Show and A Different World left with HBC culture, man, especially with fashion. I can remember watching Dwayne Wayne and Ron Johnson rock some of the latest starter gear, starter hats, starter jackets, and some of the freshest Jordans on their feet. And some of those things I've seen Theo Huxtable do as well. Talk about the impact of fashion from the HBCU side and also, like, unfortunately, why do things like the Cosby Show and A Different World get lost when in terms of the branding and stuff like that with HBCUs?
I think the biggest thing from back then was just it's the visibility of HBCUs. That's what was wearing HBCU gear on those shows was all about. You see it on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Moesha. I'm young, so I just started watching Moesha because it just came on Netflix. But just seeing the vintage gear and Southern University on there and all these other schools on there, it's cool. And so with the brand right now, of course, I want to make gear for people in school right now and the alumni, but I also want to make gear and show people that they could just wear the gear out of just support for the culture. You don't necessarily have to be a student or alumni of a school just to rep it, similar to how, like we said earlier, they were repping it in those shows. So with LHP this past year, we've had different artists, different celebrities, and different people wear the product, and for them to use that and take the energy to just use their platforms to just show love for the culture pushes the culture so much further. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's all about shining a light on HBCUs. So.
So what you talking about LHP, man, and the different people who now begin to get a feel for it. Is there anybody that gave you that real shock, wow factor about, yo, they got my brand on that just really wowed you, bro? And you was like, yo, we might be here with something right now.
Yeah. The first major one was Chris Paul, because he wore it on one of the biggest stages in sports, which is the NBA playoffs. And there were so many, that was, we're in quarantine, so everybody's watching it on TV. So seeing him walk through the tunnel in LHP gear and he's just repping HBCUs, that's so many eyes just on the culture. So for him to take the time to do that, not show love to just the brand, but showing love to Howard, showing love to Spelman and Morehouse, it speaks volumes to him and what he's trying to do off the court. As we all know, we're aware of everything that he's doing for the league. So that's just that just goes into the message of what it means to wear HBCU gear.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, Kev.
So we bring up Chris Paul, of course. Cam Newton and some other notable names have also been seen rocking these shorts, but Chris Paul has somewhat become, I guess, the ambassador of the brand. How did that relationship even develop?
It was really all love, to be honest. His family, they have deep roots in HBCUs. I know his family went to a few HBCUs in North Carolina. A few went to Norfolk University, Norfolk State. And his team reached out and was like, Chris is looking to support your brand and buy some product so that he can have it for NBA playoffs. What's as soon as we can get it. So it was never a handout situation. It was Chris just wants to show love. This is what I want. Do you have it in my size? How can you get it here as fast as you can? So that relationship kind of came together really organically and naturally. I didn't get a chance to actually speak to Chris himself. we've engaged in conversation like via like the comments, because he did post and tag the brand, which means a lot for me. So, but his team, you know, they always show love. He's always showing love to the culture and using his platform to highlight, you know, things that he cares about in our community.
Nice, nice. Listen, HBCUs, as we all know, are often overlooked, undervalued, yet they remain vital to the Black community. The same can be said for Black-owned apparel companies, but
Mm-hmm.
most tend to disappear, as TJ alluded to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you have something here, but how do we keep it relevant moving forward?
To just keep the name relevant is just to keep wearing the gear, and a big part of my brand that I'm very proud of is our give back initiatives. We're also
Yes.
partnered with the HBCU Alliance, just to ensure that we're lifting as we climb. So we partner with them and do different events throughout the year to raise money, awareness, and funds for scholarships and funds for the schools that we have licensing agreements with. There's a HBCU 5K run that we did virtually this past summer, where we raised over $90,000 that go back to, you know, the schools that we're partnered with, for prospective students, for current students, to continue getting their education. So a portion of our proceeds go back to all the schools that we partner with. And I think that's one of the most important parts of the business.
That's what's up.
You know, people invest in us, so of course we have to invest back into the community. And that's something that not a lot of brands are doing. But for HBCUs to sustain and just Black people to sustain, we gotta invest and just have ownership within our own communities.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely. So Tahir, the reason why I love Kev, man, because he always has his pulse on what's going on. That's my brother from another, man. And like he says,
Mm-hmm.
HBCUs have been, you know, undervalued for quite some time.
Right.
However, we've seen Miss Mackenzie Scott doing a lot of bread this past year to HBCUs, man. And I don't want to say HBCUs like they got in fashion all of a sudden, but do y'all welcome as HBCU students, and you know somebody has a vibrant business based upon their love for HBCUs, excuse me, and being a part of HBCUs? Do y'all welcome that energy? Just curious.
I'll speak on my own behalf. Like, I think it's important to do it, but I think it's important to continue it though. I don't
Right.
want people to, one thing I don't want people to do is to treat our culture as a fad or treat it as a trend. Like, if you're going to invest in our communities, fully invest, provide jobs, provide, you know, opportunities for, you know, Black people and students at HBCUs to come into your corporation and really give you the insight and knowledge that you need to be inclusive. Everybody likes to use the term inclusive in the corporate world, but you got to be very intentional with your purpose and what you're trying to do for your
Right.
brand and for the communities that you market to. Kind of like I said before, like our HBCU culture and Black culture, we push the trends. We are the influencers. So it's important for people to give us that credit, but also find different ways to engage our community and give back. So, you know, with given the light that everything has been going on socially since the summer, we've seen a lot of people, you know, giving away money to schools, giving opportunity for Black creatives. All of that is great, but the momentum has to, we got to keep the ball moving on that one. We got to keep the ball moving. That's the most important thing.
Appreciate your insight on that, good brother. I can remember growing up, man, and catching the bus and going to the Coliseum in Queens, bro,
Mm-hmm.
and getting my actual Queen 7 shirt. Like,
yeah.
I knew on Monday, by the time Friday hit, like, I can't wait to get to the Coliseum to get this shirt, boy.
Absolutely.
Talk about legacy in terms of a family, bro. We hear about the Hilfiger family, the Loren family, the Hilton family, but listen, man, with Black culture, you're a part of a legacy family in terms of business and fashion. So I don't know if you ever had an opportunity to step back and look at that, but as a fan of your grandfather and your father's work, I think that's important, man. So how do you look at that? And I always want to know this inside secret. What does the 7 stand for?
I got you. But it's cool to see the legacy of Black families. Like, for example, like Diddy, like what he's doing, setting his kids up to continue their push and their influence in the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Wade and the LeBrons of the world. Like, it's cool just seeing the legacies of Black family and establishing that generational wealth, not just money, but also just knowledge and resources. So my family story, we date back to my grandfather came to the States in 1966 from Trinidad and Tobago. And he came here and he started off as a shoe repair. He had a shoe repair store with his brother. down the line, my pops got older and was like, yo, let's get a Nike account. They went and got the first black-owned Nike account in the United States, named the store Vaughn Sneaker Store. And that's my dad also started making the Queen 7 shirts, School of Hard Knocks. And from there, it just kind of like took off. All these different artists were wearing it, celebrities wearing it, a lot of people just showing love. And most importantly, my grandfather, I mean, he loved just the neighborhood of East Elmhurst, Corona. He was a teacher, he was a mentor, he was just that father figure for the neighborhood. And you know, he
was cooking up in the basement too.
Cooking up in the basement, chefing up Caribbean food in the back. You know, it was really like a family environment. And growing up for me in the store, it like the store didn't really feel like a store. Like I would have my scooter riding around the store, bumping into customers, and then I'd have to get sent to the back into the store crib. But that's what it was all about. It's kind of like just sharing that family story. And my family came from the West Indies. My grandfather came from Trinidad and Tobago. So just a strong understanding of just my Caribbean roots and where we come from. A very, very prideful and very proud family. But what you were saying about the Queen 7, there's a lot of the myths, the legends,
the hood room. Yeah, you're right.
To be honest, there was the Queens. I think there was a Queens 3 and a Queens 5 shirt.
There was,
but the Queen 7 was what just blew up. Like you could see old pictures of like 50 Cent in the gear and DJ Khaled the Queen 7. But Queen 7 was one of the first shirts that were in major music and in hip hop videos, which was, big back in the day. You didn't have the Instagram and Twitter to just post up videos. So the biggest thing was seeing what brands were in the latest music and hip hop videos. So when Queen 7 started blowing up because of that, for real.
Man, listen, I seen LL come out of Music Factory around the corner from the ad. Had a 7. I said, oh, I gotta get that. Then I seen came out the barbershop like a week later. Fredro Starr came out the barbershop with the 7 on. From Onyx. And I was like, yo, what is this? And being a short, I didn't even understand. But all I knew is like, when I got my allowance the following week, I'm going to the Coliseum to get one of these shirts because they was just everywhere, bro.
So people, you would see the Queen 7, and then the most important part of it was the back of the shirt because it would have a list
of the names.
It would have a list of names of people in the neighborhood, different schools, streets.
You got an old soul, bro, because you wasn't really around like that back then.
Now, yo, it had parks where we hooped at. Parks was on the back. Like all that was on the back of these shirts, boy.
Everything. And it was all about like putting Queens culture on the map, doing it through fashion. Because my dad, like I was saying before, my dad loves Queens. And at the time, back in the day, there's a lot of artists coming out of Queens, a lot of ball players out of Queens. So he was just like, yo, Queens we gotta show love to our community and put on. So
you know how this is a total 6 degrees, bro? We have another show called The Entire Empire. And our co-host is on the back of that shirt because he's from Left Rack City, Queens, Mr. Kenny Anderson. So that's how crazy this whole movement was, man. And I remember just real quick before we jump back to my man Kev, that I remember seeing him with the Uptown video where Lord Tariq and Peter Guns, and they had the Bronx joints. Like Burroughs just had them and they just popped off, man. So salute to your family, man. Salute to your family.
Yes,
go ahead, Kev.
Speaking of salutes to the family, your father and your grandpops had Vaughn Sneaker Store. Infamous. Everybody knows about it.
Yes, sir.
And as you alluded to earlier, you had the first Black-owned Nike account. Let's fast forward several decades now, and you're featured in Nike Yard Runners. How does it feel to see it all come back full circle, basically?
It's insane. Like I remember just learning so much from Nike at a young age, just about just their branding and marketing and just how they just had just brand loyalty with their consumer base. Like I remember being in the back of the store and I would see on the video cameras a rush of people come in on Saturdays for Jordan releases, and I was like, wow, that's insane. Because on Saturdays was the busy day with the shoe releases, so I wasn't really like in the storefront for it. I always had to be in the back. But I mean, to answer your question, it's really a full circle moment when they hit me, and it was just, it's still hard to put it into words just to see my face and also just the brand, because I wore an LHP piece in the campaign. So for Nike, big shout out to them for allowing me to even wear it, because how many times do you see Nike, brand and market themselves with a different brand? You see Nike do an advertisement, do photo shoots, you're Nike head to toe, no other brand, no other logo, nothing. but they were like, we want to do something special for you and your family story. So, you know, and let me wear the jacket in the shoot.
So that wasn't an LL Fubu kind of takeover kind of thing. They co-signed that one.
They were like, you gonna rep Howard? You wanna rep the culture and rep
That's
your
what's
brand?
up.
Go ahead and do it. So they gave me the platform to, you know, I did an interview with them, and they did a whole, like, you know, spread in their Nike app and on their social media. But for all of it to just come full circle is just like, it was just mind blowing. And that was honestly one of my first collaborations with another brand in terms of like a marketing campaign. So to start it off with Nike is just like, I'm excited for what's next, to be honest.
Dope.
Yeah.
Go ahead, TJ.
So you being Mr. Legacy, man, and it's synonymous with the university and being a Bison, man. Howard University has his imprint and his fingers all over DC, man. When you think about DC, you got to think of Howard University, and it doesn't compare.
For sure.
Think about what happened about 2 weeks ago, man, and how close that is just in campus's back door, man. How do you feel about what took place? How do you feel about, you know, what you have to do in terms of the legacy and building Black business, and how things like that is sometimes frowned upon by others? And how do we move forward with the cases of domestic terrorism in terms of moving together as us, as a culture unified?
To speak on it, I think that was one of the first times that we've kind of had some type of unity with everybody, just of just general like understanding of like, we got to do better as a community. So for me, it's just like, I got to continue. I really got to put my foot on the gas in terms of like, you know, continuing to push for this brand, push in this culture. For me, this brand is a lot bigger than me. It's not only about me, but it's about continuing my family story, continuing Howard's story, because I always preach about Howard, but also the HBCU story, because I'm a brand dedicating to serving, you know, the HBCU community. I think, you know, 2020 was a lot in general, and it's and having so much alone time and being in quarantine has taught a lot of people just to self-reflect and figure out their own values and their own missions in terms of what they want to do. So I think if I had a message for the world, it's like, you got to continue like leading and living in your own purpose and living for your why. And kind of that's what I talked about the other day. I always write blogs and post them on the site just to give people an insight of what I'm thinking and like who I am outside of just this brand. But I just talked about how like, you got to lead with a purpose. You have to find out what your why is. And it was just MLK Day, yesterday. And he was willing to die for something that he cared about, but it was bigger than himself. So once everybody kind of like gets on that same train and level of thinking, that mindset, we'll beginning to have a lot more progress just as a nation, as a community.
Definitely. Listen, man, you've been an inspiration to so many, bro. And we want to thank you for your time out on the stoop. I just got one more question. I'm gonna kick it right back to Kev.
Sure.
But most definitely, man, since 2016, the world has been divided, because everybody can remember about what took place when Colin Kaepernick took a knee. And then we fast forward in the last 24 months, man, we've been a powder keg in emotions, but most importantly, you know, social injustices and racial tension has been at all-time high here in America. We talked about, you know, Cam Newton and also Chris Paul, and they've been very outspoken in terms of the platforms that athletes have. In terms of moving forward, man, how do you think players, athletes, brands, organizations must continue to take a vibrant stand in order for us to get more unified as a country in total?
I think one of the most powerful things that I've gained from my Howard experience is learning how to be unapologetically Black and learning how to use my voice to bring change and ignite change. And it's cool to see, you know, athletes like LeBron and you know, his boys Mav Carter build a platform like The Shop, so to speak, giving people the platform to speak and educate and carry on certain messages, because you never know who's listening. I think all of those things are important. You've seen a lot more celebrities and athletes take a stance. You know, wearing HBCU gear in itself is a statement. You know, people outside of, you know, Black culture, they'll wear Black Lives Matter shirts just because it's a statement piece. It's just about like, what message do you represent? What message are you really about? So for athletes to do that on and off the court through fashion or through their interviews, you know, I think D'Angelo Russell, they were interviewing him and he flipped the questions back onto the reporters, and was like, what do y'all think about what recently happened at the Capitol? How do y'all feel about, you know, social justice? And that's how it becomes a conversation. We have to continue, like I said before, this dialogue, and it could be uncomfortable, but let's be honest, racism isn't a comfortable thing. We've been dealing with it for so long. So it's time to finally just like address these issues. So to see athletes use, you know, their platform to do it via interviews or, you know, whatever they do off the court, off the field is very important. You know, holding people to a different standard, and, you know, showing these big name companies like, look, like you got to do something for the culture. I represent you, so you have to represent me as well. So, yeah.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to all of what you just said, I gotta say, man, you're ahead of your time.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
You got an old soul, so to speak. And for such a young guy, you've accomplished a lot in your life so far.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What's next, though?
I have no idea. I get this question all the time, and it's just like, just to see the growth of the brand within the year, you know, the Chris Paul, NBA playoffs, Nike, and then seeing the product on GQ. I just did an interview for CFDA.
Wow.
It's like, I have no idea where things could go from now. I'm looking to take HBCU fashion, HBCU culture into places in a light that it's never been before. So, I mean, I want to continue what I'm doing. I think right now my goal is to hit a lot more HBCUs. Right now I have a license for close to like 30 schools right now. So in 2021, I'm just trying to create some more noise and excited to do what I'm doing and giving back to the community through fashion.
I got a quick question to chime in on that. You ever thought about a legendary flagship store, taking it back to brick and mortars like grandpop and your dad at all?
I actually am. I've had a few, you know, conversations, you know, with my team about that. Hopefully Atlanta will be the spot for it too. Hopefully Atlanta will be the spot.
That's the right place.
Absolutely. So much is going on in Atlanta with Black-owned businesses. Just, I see Atlanta as like the Mecca of the South. Like it's really growing with a lot of young Black talent and Black entrepreneurship, Black ownership. Right now, just trying to do business with and collaborations with different brands is very important. You know, continue that push for, you know, the work that we've been doing.
If and when that happens, let us know so the Stoop can pull up and support.
Absolutely. We'll do a podcast in Atlanta and do it in the store.
Even better, right in the store.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Well, listen, to Mr. Legacy, man, Mr. Tahir Murray, we really want to thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to pull up and have a seat on the Stoop, man.
Got to.
Wishing you all the best, wishing you well, man. Whatever you got going on next, man, be sure to let us know, man, so we can support, all right?
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
And real quick, man, before we sign off, let them know where they can catch any product, anything, any merch they want to support with. Go ahead, bro. Let them know.
Oh, yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can follow on at Shop LHP. The website is www.shoplhp.com. Our personal page is by.mrlegacy. Hit me up. Any questions, feel free to DM me and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I'm here, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you once again, man. For my guy, Kev P, my co-host with the most, I'm TJ. It's been another great episode of The Stoop. We'll catch you soon.